On this episode of Healthier Workplaces, we'll learn about AIHA and IBEC's collaboration to create Commit to Care.
So let me be clear in this message. COVID, the pandemic, is not over. I heard a presentation from a representative from the National Safety Council, and on one slide they said, is the pandemic over? And they said, from a people perspective, yes, we want it to be. We want to be done with this. We all do. However, epidemiologically, we're far from that.
Partnership between IBEC and AIHA has created a repertoire of collateral assets that really speaks to the science and how to protect employers in the workplace. And we're very proud of this partnership, and we're looking forward to producing additional deliverables in the year ahead. And who knows what's ahead after that. We're looking forward to continuing our partnership.
Hi, I'm Paula Stephen, and this is my husband, Sean Hewitt. There we are. Yes, that's our little logo, shown smaller than the large corporations, but it's there right next to the Workplace Health Without Borders logo. This all started as something silly and fun, really. When we made a small donation and found out that even with a donation as small as the one we made, our logo could be on all the swag. We didn't have a logo at the time, so we made one. You've probably wondered about industrial hygienists at Half-Draft Acres, as you saw us flashed on all the screens at both face-to-face conferences and virtual ones. Well, here we are, just the two of us, two IHs, making a difference a tiny bit at a time. Industrial hygiene is close to our hearts. We both have a proud history of reducing injuries by ensuring workplace exposure levels aren't exceeded. And we care about what the future holds, since the average professional is about 43 years old, and since fewer students seem to be joining us, it's important to advance the profession by contributing to a scholarship that funds education and professional development in this field.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us on this episode, final episode for 2022 for AIHA's Healthier Workplace Show. I'm Bob Krell, founder and publisher of Healthy Indoors Magazine. Thanks for joining us. With us today, we have a really interesting panel, AIHA CEO Larry Sloan, the Managing Director of External Affairs for AIHA, Sue Marchese, and IBEC's Chief Science Officer, Ken Martinez. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy holiday schedule to be here. We're here to discuss your initiative on Commit to Care. So I guess I'm going to throw this to Larry first to give us a little background on it, because probably many of the viewers may not be that familiar with it, because this is a fairly new initiative.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks again for the opportunity to talk a little bit about Commit to Care and its origins. You know, we go back to the beginning of the pandemic, and in the spring of 2020, we realized that we needed to take a leadership role in figuring out ways to respond to the pandemic and give practical guidance to small businesses in particular that don't have in-house occupational health and safety expertise. And so we created a series of documents under the brand Back to Work Safely. And by the middle of 2020, we had developed 27 different Back to Work Safely guidance documents. And we really received quite a bit of visibility and publicity as a result of this effort. And the folks at NIOSH took notice of the great work that we were doing in educating, if you will, the downstream consumer. And as a result of the Back to Work Safely campaign, they teed us up to encourage us to apply for a grant with the CDC. And we did so. And in February of 2021, we received the good news that we were eligible for $500,000 in initial funding from the CDC to put together a variety of materials that ultimately have made their way into what we call the committocare.org platform. And these materials include video snippets on respiratory protection, downloadable posters and fact sheets and other materials, all geared towards simplifying the science. And again, all of the materials, all of the collateral assets that we've developed over the last year and a half now, almost 2 years, are housed on this website called committocare.org. This Commit to Care website was initiated back in February of this year. So it's not even a year yet that we have launched the portal. And we have 14 organizational members that have decided to step up and take a leadership role in partnering with us. And we have several others that are in the wings that are looking forward to joining the effort. So in a relatively short amount of time, Bob, we really ramped up this initiative and established ourselves as an expert in helping businesses respond sensibly and practically to the pandemic.
But this type of an initiative is kind of new territory for AIHA to some extent, right? I mean, you've always had some outreach documents that you've published and produced, but it's never been like this is a concerted effort to reach people that are not necessarily, well, they're not your members. You're actually going out to the general public. I mean, the business community, but still the general public. So a little unusual, right?
Absolutely. And again, for us to be able to establish a presence and communicate directly with manufacturers and retailers and other establishments that need the services of an OEHS professional, an occupational and environmental health and safety professional, is really unfounded territory for us as an association. So we're very excited to take a lead role in developing a variety of materials and resources that are designed to really enlighten those that we serve about, again, how to respond to the pandemic. Now, originally, all the materials were developed around COVID, but we're in the process now of transitioning our materials so that they really reflect any sort of an airborne transmitted disease, so not limited to COVID.
Again, this being a bit new territory, and AIHA has published a lot of technical documentation over the years. And that's not new territory for you, but it's your new delivery method, and who you're delivering it to is a little bit different. So now, Ken, your involvement is obviously on the technical side, on the science side of this, correct?
Correct.
So
That is correct.
so tell us a little bit about what you, and it's IBEC is obviously you've been doing on behalf of that.
Yes, I can do that. So up front, this is from the very beginning was a collaboration between the American Industrial Hygiene Association and the Integrated Bioscience and the Built Environment Consortium. I am a certified industrial hygienist and a member of the IHA, as well as um, an environmental engineer. So IBEC is a nonprofit. We stood up almost 3 years ago to support the COVID response. Now we focus on the built environment. We know that this thing is airborne, right? Primarily transmitted through the air. So vaccines are important, medical diagnostics very, very important. But given that it's airborne transmission is the primary route, we knew that there was more you could do about the built environment to reduce the risk of transmission. And so that's why we partnered up with the IHA. As an industrial hygienist, I'm a risk assessor. That's what I do for a living. Been doing that for over 40 years. And it was a perfect marriage to use the communication and expertise of the industrial hygiene community through AIJ, but also to broaden that and connect it with the IBEC expertise, which is more diverse in terms of we have a science advisory board that has doctors, that has engineers, that has industrial hygienists, that has microbiologists. So we're very, very diverse to address this broader problem of airborne transmission. So we were very intentional when we were creating Commit to Care, both the IHA and IBEC. We wanted to level the playing field of understanding with regard to COVID-19. As you all are aware, there's a lot of guidance out there. Sometimes it's very complex. Sometimes it's even conflicting. So the public at large was confused by which direction to go. Now, not blaming any agency in particular because this was an evolving scenario. We didn't know that much about the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the coronavirus, and now with the variants, the updates, the changes had to be made continuously. So we felt that it was easier to simplify the communication message. And we did this in two ways. First, we wanted to educate people, if you will, on risk assessment. We all do risk assessment every day of our lives. When we walk out the door, some people choose not to wear a seatbelt, others choose to wear a seatbelt, or texting and driving, some choose to smoke. These are all risk assessments that we do within our heads from time to time. But the COVID presented some new opportunities to teach people a simpler way to evaluate the risk because we are still living in a pandemic. I unfortunately was exposed on Saturday and I'm feeling the effects today, and hopefully my condition doesn't get any worse. But I still wear masks when needed to. I go into an environment and I do that risk assessment, whether I go into a shopping mall, the grocery store, or a football game for that matter. And so we included risk assessment as one of the tools on the Commit to Care website. Also, we wanted to boil down the key risk factors and mitigation factors that we want people to consider instead of this multitude of different ideas about social distancing and do I wear a mask and, how long do I have to stay in quarantine? We focus down into what we call the 4Ds. It's about distance, dilution, duration, and density. Density is about seeing people in a room because the more people that are there at a meeting, in a grocery store, at an event, a family event, this is the Christmas season, you don't know if somebody's sick. We know that a large percent of the population can be exposed to COVID-19 and be asymptomatic, yet they are still infectious. So people need to weigh that in mind. How many people are in that little circle that I'm congregating around? I don't know who's vaccinated or not. So that becomes density because if someone is infectious, one, two, or three in that group, that increases the concentration of viral particles that you can be exposed to. The next one is, of course, duration. Duration has to do with how long you are in that environment, that space where these viral particles exist. And the longer you are there, the more of these viral particles you are likely to inhale. So the time that you're exposed becomes a key factor. So those two things are risk factors. The mitigation factors are distance and dilution. With distance, we know that social distancing becomes important. The farther you are away, these particles will have a tendency to even out in the air, which means that the concentration gets less. So the farther you are away from a person who is infectious, that lowers your risk of inhaling and subsequently becoming infected with COVID-19. However, there are many, many of these super spreader events where in a small room environment or a meeting room, such as a church, someone who's very infectious and transmits a lot can impact a large population. So distance isn't a cure-all, but it does help. The last one is dilution. This is the simple one. If there's a concentration of viral particles in the air, anything that we can do to dilute that concentration down is very, very powerful. We can do that through air filtration. We can do that through including or introducing more outdoor air into that space. All of these things help to dilute what that viral concentration gets down. So these are all presented on our Commit to Care website. These were all created out of the CDC grant. And we were looking for a way, AIHA and IBEC, to disseminate the information, the knowledge product content we created. And we brainstormed and came up with the idea of Commit to Care. And it was favorably received by our NIOSH technical leads.
So, I mean, again, this is a really innovative initiative because one of I think the problems that the general public experienced throughout this pandemic, especially in the early days in 2020, and even a bit beyond, is that the dissemination of information and in a way that the general public could understand. And there was just so much confusion and so much information just never got out there well. And so this is a breath of fresh air in that extent because you're actually giving the workplaces the tools to actually, if they, like you said, if they don't have in-house expertise, an industrial hygienist or that type of safety professional on their staff, they at least have some of these resources that would be really hard to acquire on your own. So Sue, in your role at AIHA, obviously you had involvement in the rollout of this, right? And how this actually, you've got the technical support of IBEC helping develop the technical information, but obviously probably one of the most key components is how you roll that information out so people can access it and know about it, right?
Yeah, that we realized was not going to be a simple just, build it and they will come. Obviously, we wanted to start with our partners. And so that was one of the first strategy we did. And we reached out to allied professionals in the OEHS space and presented the concept of Commit to Care to them, asking them to for free, partner with us. And the only thing that we ask in return is for them to share the materials, the trainings with the people who are part of their association. That branched to even outside of our own allied professionals, but to others in just the health field, APHA and organizations like National Safety Council. Then, of course, we were trying to convince the small business, to small SBA and groups like that. Surprisingly, and we were very happy to say that actually large corporations already started to sign on to our effort. So we have not yet announced exactly who they are. We're going to be doing that in the new year. So I offer everyone to keep an eye out for that. We're very excited with our corporate partners for Commit to Care. A second strategy we had done to disseminate the information was some very good old-fashioned advertising. We, thanks to the CDC grant, we were able to do Google AdWords advertising, as well as some other advertising through allied association organizations and other kinds of marketing tactics. And our third strategy is to constantly reach out to the national and industry press. So for earned media, we were also able to get a ton of exposure for our Commit to Care efforts, and a lot, tens of thousands of impressions for particular videos, but actually in aggregate of all of the videos that we had combined, there were close to 1 million impressions on all of on all of the Commit to Care videos. So it has definitely picked up steam, and dissemination continues to kind of go up and down, but we are committed to doing this, and we intend to promote these materials, because even though they were rolled out with COVID in mind, they definitely have an evergreen, long shelf life that can be applicable to various industries for various times and during various endemics or pandemics.
Well, certainly 1 million impressions in less than a year on a site. That's pretty sizable, attention being brought to it. So that's fabulous. We'll bring up the site right now. So this is the Commit to Care site. So it's Commit to Care. The site is commit to the number 2 and C.A.R.E.org is how you get there. Are there any highlights of the site we should talk about, or actually? Somebody, this is the homepage that you would land on when you go to that URL.
Yeah, I can just give a quick tour and just explain that at the very beginning, when we launched the site, the primary purpose of the site was to get people to actually take a pledge and pledge to commit to.
We'll be back after this.
When I was a student, somebody helped me. I think it's my responsibility now that I found some success in this profession to help others. In my opinion, you can't see yourself as successful if you're not helping other people. We as industrial hygienists, EHS professionals, need to give back to secure that students are well prepared and supported in their educational endeavors. Look at it as paying it forward. Somebody helped me get to where I am, so I'm helping others to achieve their dreams. We all have to make sacrifices in life, but this is a gift that we can take pride in giving back through the foundation. Opening doors. It's that basic. It's easy for us to open doors and usher future EHS professionals along the path that we traveled when we were students. Sit back and think about the start of your industrial hygiene journey. How many people helped you get to where you are now? How expensive was school back then, and how much more expensive it is now? Now think about how your giving will go into investing into that next CIH or EHS professional. Lead by example. Some folks helped me get to where I am, so I'm just doing my part. And it feels good to know that I'm contributing to the future of our profession. The foundation makes it easy in so many ways to make a gift, and I've seen firsthand how my giving has been appreciated by students. So do your part. Give back.
So we had actually, when we rolled out committocare.org, the intention was to have people pledge to watch various videos, to download various resources, and then to receive a digital badge, which they could then say, I committed to care. And I actually have sat for these very thorough trainings. As the months went by, we realized that was a bit of a tall order, and we wanted to make sure that the site was a little bit more of a one-stop resource for people when it came to not just COVID, but all forms of airborne transmissible diseases. So this is the new iteration of Commit to Care, recently relaunched. Various opportunities to engage are on the top, about taking that pledge, sitting through those trainings for sure, and getting a digital badge. Also, if you were to scroll down a little bit more on the homepage, we do get into not only our partners who we currently have, but there are opportunities to become a partner. This is the other portion of it that is relatively new, and that's our one-stop shop. If we just go down a little bit more, we do get into the current as well as past variant exposures. We also talk about something as most recent as the triple-demic that we're all facing as we go into the holidays. And also just opportunities for people to take away some really good tips and important information about how to stay safe.
Following up on what Sue said about Commit to Care, one of the things that we've strived to do is to provide a variety of information from three different perspectives: from the employer's perspective, from the employee's perspective, and then from a member of the public who would be visiting a facility, such as a supplier or a vendor or a customer, to level the playing field so that all of these populations have the proper and appropriate information to help protect themselves when they're in the workplace.
And since they all have the same type of information, they're communicating from that same page of knowledge. And that was the intent. We didn't want it to be too complex. We wanted to make all the knowledge digestible, the information digestible, so that when an employer comes to talk to employees about wearing a mask, they have that common base of understanding, and they can have that healthy debate about the positives, the negatives, how to don and doff, or maybe a customer comes in and sees a portable air cleaner, an in-room air cleaner, and says, oh, thank you, I understand why you're doing that now. You're diluting the air. So it helps to promote and encourage conversations, awareness, if you will. And one critical point about Commit to Care is that the CARE stands for community, awareness, responsibility, and equity.
Tell us a little bit more of of how you were able, what your game plan was to actually get this out to the general public, the general business community.
Mm-hmm.
That's a daunting task.
Yeah, our game plan for getting this out to the business community and the general public, for that matter, has been multifaceted. I think that it's very important for us to explain that this is not just for COVID, but it is for health in the workplace. And it is very much useful for business owners, employees to be trained in these areas. So we particularly have shared those videos through social media, through other methods, but mainly through our partners. We had some very early partners with Commit to Care who signed on as soon as we launched the program. International also. So we have organizations from Australia, Canada, the United States, and it's continuing to grow. So it's really their networks that have allowed us to amplify our messages about Commit to Care and to amplify those trainings and share them thereafter. I think that as far as, I just want to comment on one quick thing, particularly about the fact that when we built the Commit to Care art, it was really conscious to make sure that no identity was really obvious. We tried to be as all-inclusive and diverse as possible. And we always refer to our Commit to Care people as our purple people, because we think that that is really something that helps to level the playing field, as we mentioned earlier, not just about the knowledge, but also about the identification with our messaging, that people can realize that this is for everybody. And one of the things that, thanks to the CDC grant, we were able to do is actually have them translated into, have the videos translated into 8 languages. So it's total of 9 languages of videos that can go far and wide, literally throughout the world.
So I mentioned earlier that we received the first tranche of money in the spring of 2021, and we developed, again, a series of videos and other informational pieces, all available on committocare.org. Well, we were fortunate to receive our second tranche of funds in August of this year, and so the next phase of the grant is going to involve information on in-room air purification systems and UV disinfection, as well as additional protocol information on vaccines and employee testing protocols. We're also going to be taking the original Back to Work Safely guidance documents, and we're going to be creating an ebook, and it's going to be under a new brand, the Healthier Workplaces brand. You know, the whole Back to Work Safely brand is a little bit stale at this point. People are back to work, but Healthier Workplaces leverages the AIHA's tagline as an organization. So we'll be taking all that information from Back to Work Safely, harmonizing it and making it a little more general, again, towards any airborne transmitted disease, not limited to COVID, and putting it into an ebook concept. And then we'll be rolling that out late spring, early summer of 2023. So again, we're very excited about building upon the great success we've had under phase 1 as we get into phase 2 and really focusing on indoor air quality and generalizing the information and the guidance that we've created for any type of a pandemic.
Of course, no coincidence that that's the moniker for our program too, which again makes sense. You know, we're tying it all together and getting that consistent messaging out there, which I guess is paramount to it today and all the noise you have.
That's right.
What can we anticipate the second phase or the next phase in your Commit to Care program?
Yeah, so the deliverables that are focused on indoor air quality and vaccine testing protocols, the anticipated rollout date for those is, I'll say, late winter, early spring. And then the ebook that's based on the original Back to Work Safely guidance, we anticipate rolling that out mid-year next year. You know, as Ken indicated earlier, we're very appreciative of the partnership between AIHA and IBEC, and I think we bring complementary perspectives and strengths to the table. And I know that the folks at CDC and NIOSH have been very impressed by how well we work. We're very seamless in our integration, the way we bring subject matter experts to the table. Of course, under Ken's leadership with IBEC, we've got a deep bench of industrial hygienists that are reviewing all of the materials that we're producing under the grant. And under the ebook project that I mentioned earlier, we're leveraging the communications firm that IBEC brought to the table to help bring Commit to Care to life. So it's a really wonderful partnership between 2 organizations that are committed to protecting workers from any pandemic.
So Ken, you know, again, it's this collaboration between your 2 organizations seems like it really made this something that was possible, right? This is a pretty daunting task to put all this information together in the timeline that you had to work with, because obviously you were dealing with trying to address the pandemic issues. So you know it had to happen right away. I mean, it was, you know, certainly every month would be too much longer. So how are you able to collaborate and make this all happen and actually roll out a grant proposal? Can't be a slow process either, right? CDC.
No. Well, I'll defer to Sue and Larry for the grant proposal, but it was just because I am an industrial hygienist, as I mentioned earlier, so I reached out to AIHA early on in the concepts that were beginning to evolve with IBEC. What could we do to do a better job of communicating, bridging the gap between science and industry and communicating the scientific evidence, if you will, that needed to be learned by all? And so, in reaching out to AIHA, we actually asked them to become a partner in the early days of IBEC's formation, where we delivered something we called the Clean Summit 2020. These are online events that we brought together industry, we brought together academia and feds to talk about COVID-19 and try to get them to have this conversation about the science, about what needs to be implemented. We had folks such as IBM, Hilton, Marriott, GM, Coca-Cola in attendance. We had the cruise line industry representation. We had, as I said before, we had CDC, we had EPA, we had DHS as presenters or panelists, and we invited AIHA to become partners in that. It was through that partnership early on that we began to see how there was synergy between our two organizations. So when AIHA was funded for the CDC grant, they reached out to IBEC and asked us if we would be able to help them into creating some of this knowledge content. And it's been, as Larry had said, it's been positive ever since. I couldn't be prouder of the interaction between prouder of the partnership, but also the products that we deliver. By recognizing these are only 2 to 3 minute videos, and they deliver a lot of needed information to folks.
Well, and the thing is, you've got them in such a way that people that are not professionals in the health and safety,
Yes.
venues are able to understand and glean information from it and do actionable things, which is that's the whole. I think that was one of the biggest problems with this pandemic. Everybody kind of got caught without really understanding what you need to do. What does your organization need to do? What does your company need to do? What do you personally need to do? It was very hard. It was very conflicting information out there. So this
Yeah,
is
when you look at the materials, the way that they're designed, the purple people, if you will, the guidance is very practical. It's very on points, and it's simple enough to provide the information that small businesses need to protect themselves and their employers, employees, and their guests. But it doesn't distill it down to diluting the science. In other words, it takes the essence of the science and it communicates it in a way that I think is readily understandable to the layperson. And that's the magic of the partnership between the two organizations. And so we're very proud of all the work that we've done to be able to, again, distill the science down to something that is manageable and understandable to the broader community. So I think in closing, the partnership between IBEC and AIHA has created a repertoire of collateral assets that really speaks to the science and how to protect employers in the workplace. And we're very proud of this partnership, and we're looking forward to producing additional deliverables in the year ahead. And who knows what's ahead after that? We're looking forward to continuing our partnership with CDC and developing additional products in response to general pandemics that are going to hit our society in the years ahead.
So let me be clear in this message. COVID, the pandemic, is not over. I heard a presentation from a representative from the National Safety Council, and on one slide they said, "Is the pandemic over?" And they said, from a people perspective, yes, we want it to be. We want to be done with this. We all do. However, epidemiologically, we're far from that. We're seeing that now with the different variants right now. BQ1 and BQ1.1 are the predominant variants, and people are getting COVID. Even the vaccinated are getting sick 2, 3, 4 times. Nobody wants to get the flu. Nobody wants to have a cold. Definitely nobody wants to have COVID-19 again and again. So we want you to be aware. We want you to embrace all of the knowledge that we're offering to you in a very simple level so that you can do your own risk assessment as you live your lives from day to day.
And to tag on to that, we're living proof of it right now. Both of us have actually recently been exposed and contracted it again, and we're both vaccinated people who kind of have a good sense of what you should be doing as far as doing those evaluations and your risk assessments in spaces. And nobody's really safe from this yet completely.
Yeah. So. Agreed.
So one final thought is that you can actually stay on top of what new material we're putting up on committoCare.org. There is an opportunity to join our email list. so that you can have access to additional resources as they become available. So those additional videos that we were just talking about in that ebook, if people sign onto our website, towards the bottom of the homepage, there's an opportunity to just put in your email address and stay on top of all of these new, very useful, very reliable knowledge products that you can have right at your fingertips. Yeah, just to stay on top of some of these new knowledge products that we're developing, whether it's about germicidal UV or vaccine in the ebook, you can just simply sign up on the committoCare.org website at the bottom, and we will automatically send those updates to you when they become available.
I'd like to thank our guests, Ken Martinez, Larry Sloan, Sue Marchese. Thanks so very much for telling us more about the initiative between IBEC and AIHA for Commit to Care. Really just a very important program, I believe, and something that, we look to see more development and how far you can take this. This is excellent. So thank you so very much. Happy holidays to all of you. And we'll be seeing you, I guess, in the new year.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's our show for this week. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new show. Until next time, I'm Bob Krell. Thanks again for watching and stay healthy.